When clients walk into Vassal High End and they want to talk about amplification, it's a pretty standard practice that they're going to ask about the wattage. I mean, why wouldn't you? We've all been conditioned to ask that question. The problem is that question comes with assumptions about the answers. So if I tell them it's an 80-watt amplifier, there's a lot of assumption about that, especially in a world where most manufacturers are going to boast about their 100-watt per channel, 150-watt per channel amplifiers, 300-watt per channel amplifiers. There's a lot of assumption that goes on with the answer 80. Or even if I said 150, they may go, oh, that's a lot of wattage. Or if I say 80, they may say, well, that's not very high wattage. But what's behind that wattage is really what matters. Because let's talk about first the wattage rating itself. There is no universal standard that manufacturers have to use in order to arrive at and assign a wattage rating to an amplifier. So whatever methodology manufacturer A uses isn't necessarily the same methodology manufacturer B uses. So they could both come up with 100 watts per channel, but that 100 watts per channel is not equal. And if another company used their methodology, they may find that those are totally different wattage ratings from one amp to the other. So, first of all, let's get over our assumption that we know exactly what a wattage rating means. And let's talk more about what's behind watts and what makes good watts versus bad watts. I carry a manufacturer called Roxanne, and they have the Roxanne Atessa integrated streaming amplifier, and it's a great unit. It has 80 watts per channel, but it performs better on our higher end loudspeakers than other amplifiers that we have in the shop that are 140 watts per channel. So why? What's behind that? And it comes down to what's in the actual box. You know, when you take the lid off of that Roxanne or Tesla, you'll see a large toroidal transformer in there, and you'll see some pretty large capacitors in there. And so, well, why does that matter? Well, a toroidal transformer produces a much smaller magnetic field than, say, an L-core transformer. And so you lower the noise floor because that magnetic field is going to affect what happens in the audio circuitry. It could create some interference in there. So the smaller magnetic field you have and the better shielding, obviously, the better off you're going to be. And the less noise you're going to hear in your signal. But also the capacitor bank. Large capacitors do a lot for an amplifier's performance. And a lot of people don't even think about capacitors. When we think about watts per channel and we don't think about what's in that amplifier, we're missing out on what's truly awesome. So let's talk about capacitors as quick as I can. And I'm gonna equate this with water, okay? So, or using water. Let's say you're using a sink, the faucet, to fill up a really large glass of water. When you turn on the faucet, it's only got so much energy, water coming out of it, and we'll call that energy. And that's representative of the constant energy that we have going to a set of speakers, all right? It's going to fill up that glass in a certain amount of time. Now, if that glass is large, that's going to be representative of large dynamics. And it's going to take a long time to fill that glass up with just the faucet. But if you had a really large jug of water, a capacitor, with a nice big pour spout, you could fill up that glass really quickly with that. And that's what a capacitor does for your music. It allows you instantaneous energy and power because it's stored power. And it's going to replenish, but it's stored power, and it allows the amp to draw on that energy and recreate the music with that energy. Now let's say you've got a smaller jug that's actually quite a bit smaller than even the cup. if you use that jug and you pour it in, so this is representative of a small capacitor, is it going to speed up how fast the water glass fills up when the faucet's running? Yeah, it's going to speed it up a little bit. And so you're going to get a bigger dynamic than what you would have without the capacitor. But it's not going to have the same effect as that large glass or that large jug had, and that larger capacitor. And so when as a dealer and somebody that sells these amplifiers, I'm always concerned about performance. Performance matters to me a lot. And so I have to take a look at the capacitor banks. And obviously I'm a guy that listens always. And when I hear something good, I find that they have some typical things in common, and that capacitor bank is one of them. And it's probably far more important than your actual wattage rating. So that's what I look for when I am purchasing amplifiers. And we're getting ready to bring in, like I said, I was talking about Roxanne Tessa. It has large capacitors, doesn't have a whole lot of them. We're bringing in Constellation Audio. Not only does it have 2 toroidal transformers, Roxanne had 1, but this one has 2, but it also has a large capacitor bank. And so that obviously increases the cost to make the amplifier, but it also is going to increase the performance significantly. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring Constellation into the shop, was because of their performance capabilities and the musicality of that amp. When you have energy in reserve to create those large dynamic extensions, and not only create the dynamic extension but also maintain the dynamic extension, you're really starting to match and do what the musicians were trying to do in the first place. Give me a call here at Vassal High End. We're here in the 4 states, serving the audiophile community of Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri, and putting smiles on those faces.